Israel and Hamas have fought since Jewish immigrants settled in Palestine, ruled by the Ottoman Empire and the British after World War I. Tensions between Jews and Arabs increased as the Jewish population grew. Many Palestinians were expelled after Israel was founded in 1948, known as the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe. It started an extended Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As anti-Israeli groups formed in the 1960s and 1970s, Palestinian nationalism emerged. These organizations included Yasser Arafat's 1964 Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO. The PLO sought a Palestinian state and rights. Hamas entered the war in the 1980s. Sheikh Ahmed Yassin and Abdulaziz al-Randazi, Palestinian Islamic academics, founded Hamas. Islamist Hamas wanted to establish an Islamic state in Palestine to replace the secular PLO as the Palestinian people's representative. Resisting the 1993 Oslo Accords between Israel and the PLO helped Hamas rise to power. The accords aimed to establish peace and a Palestinian state. Indeed, many Palestinians saw it as a betrayal of their rights and surrendering to Israeli rule. This unhappiness allowed Hamas to position itself as a legitimate rival to the dishonest and inefficient PLO. Israel and Hamas first fought in 1994 after Hamas carried out a series of suicide bombings against Israeli civilians, including a bus bombing in Tel Aviv that killed 22. Israeli Operation Defensive Shield retook several West Bank cities and detained hundreds of Hamas militants in 2002. Hamas attacked Israeli civilians for years afterward. Israel responded with military force, intensifying the war. Hamas gained power after Israel's 2005 withdrawal from Gaza. When Hamas won the most seats in the 2006 Palestinian legislative elections, it solidified its role in the conflict. The EU and US, which considered Hamas a terrorist organization, criticized the group's win. When Israel launched Operation Cast Lead, a 3-week military attack on Gaza that killed over 1,000 Palestinians, tensions with Hamas rose in 2008. After launching rockets into southern Israel, Hamas broke the ceasefire. Since then, the war has worsened despite ceasefires and peace talks. Over 2,000 Palestinians died in Operation Protective Edge, a 50-day Israeli military operation in Gaza in 2014. Several incidents escalated tensions before the next Hamas-Israel conflict in May 2021. Easter 2021 East Jerusalem Palestinians protested Sheikh Jarrah's deportation. Protesters were injured and arrested by Israeli police. On May 7, 2021, Israel bombed Gaza after Hamas fired missiles. The dispute escalates as both sides accuse each other of violence and human rights violations. In the most recent event in 2023, Palestinian armed forces led by Hamas broke through the Gaza-Israel barrier. They entered Israeli communities and military institutions via Gaza border crossings on October 7, 2023. It was Operation Al-Aqsa Storm for Hamas, Israel's first frontal combat since 1948. An early morning rocket barrage and vehicle transported incursions into Israeli land began hostilities, with many strikes on Israeli civilian towns and military sites. Some have called these events the start of a third Palestinian Intifada. Israel declared war for the first time since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. The Israel Defense Forces or IDF calls it Iron Swords. Relations between the Strip and Israel broke badly after the Palestinian incursion. Following months of battles between Israelis and Palestinians, notably in Jenin and at Al-Aqsa Mosque, which killed roughly 250 Palestinians and 32 Israelis, Hamas justified the attack. Izzat and al-Qassam Brigade's leader Mohammed Diaf urged Palestinians and Arab Israelis to expel the occupiers and demolish the walls. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas supported the Gazan incursion at an emergency meeting in the West Bank following the assaults, saying Palestinians have the right to defend themselves against Israel. Israeli Yesh Atid leader Yair Lapid has called for a national unity government to fight the Palestinian attack. Israel declared a state of emergency after Hamas terrorists burst over the border and launched at least 3,000 missiles from Gaza, killing at least 700 Israelis. The bombings prompted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to declare as at war in a national speech. Infiltrating Palestinian militants entered many kibbutzim near Gaza and Sderot. The Hamas-led Gaza Ministry of Health said Israel murdered at least 400 Palestinians in gunfights and airstrikes, including civilians, 78 children, and 41 women. In contrast, the IDF said it killed over 400 terrorists. Both Palestinian and Israeli media stated that Palestinian terrorists had kidnapped Israeli troops and civilians, including children, and brought them to the Gaza Strip. Several incidences of violence against Israeli citizens have occurred since the Hamas onslaught began, including a music festival slaughter. After the assault, Israel shelled Gaza hospitals and ambulances, killing over 200 civilians. According to a Hamas official, the Palestinian offensive was in retaliation to West Bank Jewish settlements. Iran supported it. Western and allied nations criticized Hamas for the violence. They called its tactics terrorism, while several Muslim countries blamed the escalation on Israeli control of Palestinian areas and denial of Palestinian self-determination. Others demanded calm. The dispute between Israel and Hamas is ongoing today, as both sides continue accusing the other of aggression and human rights crimes. The situation in Gaza is still severe. An Israeli-Hamas siege has resulted in a humanitarian disaster and widespread poverty. With no immediate end, the war continues to be a significant source of tension in the Middle East, and more innocent people will suffer. May peace be with Israel and Palestine.